The ultimatum, the Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. Their massive dreadnoughts hung in the void like sleeping giants, each one capable of glassing entire worlds. The alien races that made up the Council, the towering, reptilian hegemony, the crystalline void singers, and the insectoid hive clusters, had never encountered resistance they couldn't crush. Then they found Earth. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of humanity's flagship, the Defiance, watching the Council's armada assemble beyond Luna's orbit. 300 vessels, each one dwarfing humanity's largest ships. The communication array crackled to life, and the familiar voice of High Chancellor Vex filled the bridge. Humans of the third planet. The alien's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. You have been judged. Your species shows dangerous independence. Your technology advances too quickly. Your expansion threatens the established order. Kane's crew remained silent, their faces grim. They had known this day would come. Humanity's rapid spread across the galaxy had not gone unnoticed. We offer you one choice, Chancellor Vex continued. Submit to Council authority. Accept our governors. Surrender your weapons and your ships. Do this and your species will be allowed to exist as servants. The transmission paused. In that silence, Kane could hear the breathing of his bridge crew, the hum of the ship's systems, the distant rumble of Earth's orbital defense platforms powering up. You have 72 hours to respond, the Chancellor's voice returned. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why no species has ever defied the Council and survived. The transmission ended. The bridge remained quiet for a long moment before Kane's communications officer, Lieutenant Gray, spoke up. Sir, we're receiving similar ultimatums across all human colonies. Mars, Europa, the outer settlements. They're all being given the same choice. Kane nodded slowly. He had expected as much. The Council didn't make empty threats. When they demanded surrender, they meant it absolutely. What are your orders, Admiral? Asked Captain Mills, commander of the escort destroyer Retribution. Kane looked out at the assembled alien fleet. Each ship represented centuries of conquest, countless worlds brought to heel. The Council had perfected the art of subjugation. They would arrive, demand submission, and when faced with resistance, they would make examples that echoed across the galaxy, but they had never faced humanity. Send a message to all human fleets, Kane said quietly. Tell them to prepare for full mobilization. Contact the colonial governors. I want every ship, every station, every orbital platform ready for combat. Sir, Gray interrupted. The numbers, they outnumber us 50-1. Kane turned from the viewport, his expression hardening. Numbers. Don't tell the whole story, Lieutenant. The Council rules through fear. They've grown comfortable with easy victories. But humans, we've never known easy victories. He walked to the center of the bridge, his voice carrying to every corner. For 300 years we've fought each other. Every war taught us something new. Every battle made us stronger. The Council has kept peace for 10 millennia, but peace makes you soft. The Admiral activated the ship-wide communication system. Throughout the Defiance, his voice echoed in every corridor, every compartment. This is Admiral Kane. By now you've all heard the Council's ultimatum. They want us to surrender. They want us to accept their rule, their governors, their chains. His voice grew stronger. They've given us 72 hours to decide humanity's future. He paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. I've seen their records. Every species they've encountered has eventually submitted. The proud warrior races, the ancient civilizations, the technological marvels. All of them bent the knee when faced with the Council's might. The ship's corridors fell silent as every crew member listened. But they've made one critical error, Kane continued. They assume we're like the others. They think we'll break when faced with overwhelming odds. They don't understand that humans have a saying, the only easy day was yesterday. He looked around the bridge, seeing the determination growing in his crew's eyes. So I'll give the Council their answer right now, Kane declared. We've prepared for this day since we first reached the stars. Every human settlement, every ship, every soul who calls themselves human. We've all been preparing for this moment, the war. Admiral's voice turned cold. Final. Tell the Council that humanity's answer is simple. Come and take it. The bridge erupted in quiet determination. Orders flew across communication channels as the human fleet began its preparations. In 72 hours, the galaxy would learn something new about the species from the third planet. The Council had ruled for 10,000 years. That was about to change. The response. 60 hours remained when humanity's answer reached every corner of known space. The message wasn't sent through diplomatic channels or formal communications. Instead, it blazed across emergency frequencies, civilian networks, and military channels simultaneously. Every species in the galaxy heard it, from the Council's core worlds to the furthest mining colonies. Commander Price stood in the war room beneath New Geneva, surrounded by holographic displays showing human positions across 50 star systems. The room buzzed with activity as officers coordinated the largest military operation in human history. "Status report," Price ordered. Major Davis stepped forward, his face grim. "All colonial fleets have acknowledged. Mars Defense Command reports full readiness. The Jupiter shipyards have accelerated production. We're launching 3 new destroyers every hour." "What about the outer colonies?" "Alpha Centauri is locked down tight. Proxima Station has armed every civilian vessel they could find. Even the mining rigs in the Tau Ceti system are mounting weapon systems." Price nodded. Humanity had learned long ago that survival meant everyone fought. There were no pure civilians when extinction was the alternative. "Sir," interrupted Communications Officer Bell, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Other species are watching." The main display shifted to show intercepted alien communications. Species that had submitted to the Council decades or centuries ago were sending hidden messages to each other. The word spreading through their networks was simple: defiance. "The bird-like Aryan Collective is asking for copies of our response," Bell continued. "The aquatic tide speakers want to know if we're serious. Even some of the Council's own member species are sending curious inquiries." Price understood. For 10,000 years, no one had said no to the Council. The very concept of resistance had been forgotten across most of the galaxy, but not by humans. "Incoming priority transmission from Admiral Kane," Bell announced. Kane's weathered face appeared on the central display. Behind him, the bridge of the Defiance showed controlled chaos as his crew prepared for war. "Commander Price, report. All human forces are at maximum readiness, Admiral. We have 1,600 active warships, 47,000 armed civilian vessels, and every orbital installation is weapons hot." "Good. And our special projects?" Price's expression darkened. "Project Prometheus is ready. Project Damocles has been deployed to 12 systems. Project Ragnarok," he paused. "Project Ragnarok is awaiting your final authorization." Kane was quiet for a moment. These weren't conventional weapons. Humanity had spent decades preparing for a war they knew they couldn't win through traditional means. "What about the Council's fleet?" "They're maintaining position beyond Luna. No additional ships have arrived, but—" Price hesitated. "Admiral, they're not taking us seriously. Intelligence suggests they view this as a minor police action." "Perfect," Kane replied. "How long until they expect our surrender?" 12 hours, sir." Kane smiled coldly. "Then in 12 hours we'll give them an education." The transmission shifted as another voice joined the conversation. General Hayes, commanding human ground forces across 30 worlds, appeared in a smaller window. "Admiral, my people are asking about evacuation protocols. Should we begin moving civilians to the deep shelters?" "Negative," Kane responded firmly. "This isn't about hiding, General. This is about proving a point. Every human, military or civilian, adult or child, they all need to see what we're capable of." Price understood. This wasn't just a war. It was a statement. Humanity was announcing its place in the galaxy, and that announcement needed to be absolute. "Sir," Bell interrupted again, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council fleet. It's Chancellor Vex himself." The display changed, showing the imposing figure of the High Chancellor, His reptilian features conveyed ancient authority and barely contained impatience. "Humans," Vex's voice carried across the war room. "Your silence approaches our deadline. We have detected military preparations, but surely you understand the futility. Our records show every detail of your capabilities. You cannot hope to match our strength." The Chancellor's image leaned forward, his voice taking on a patronizing tone. "We offer mercy for prompt surrender. Your leaders will be treated with respect. Your colonies will remain intact. But continued defiance will result in complete extinction. No human will survive our response." The transmission ended. The war room fell silent. Every officer present understood the weight of the moment. In 12 hours, humanity would either take its place among the galaxy's free species or cease to exist entirely. Price looked around the room at the faces of his staff. He saw no fear, only determination. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "send confirmation to all commands. Operation Wildfire is authorized. All projects are green-lit." He paused. "And send one final message to the Council." "What should it say, sir?" Price's expression hardened. "Tell them that humanity has never surrendered to anyone, and we're not about to start now." 12 hours remained. The galaxy was about to learn why humans were different. The first Strike Zero hour arrived with deceptive calm. The Council fleet maintained its position beyond Luna, their massive ships arranged in perfect formation. High, Chancellor Vex stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching Earth's blue marble turn slowly in the void. His reptilian features showed mild irritation rather than concern. "Report," he commanded. "The humans maintain radio silence," his tactical officer replied. "Their fleet remains in defensive positions around their homeworld. No signs of surrender broadcasts." Vex's claws clicked against his command throne. In 10,000 years of Council rule, this moment had played out countless times across the galaxy. Species would posture, make defiant speeches, then inevitably submit when faced with overwhelming force. "Very well," he said. "Begin the demonstration. Target their moon installations first. Minimal damage. We want them functional after they surrender." The order rippled through the Council fleet. Weapon systems that could crack planets powered up with lethal precision. The first barrage would be carefully measured, designed to show humanity the futility of resistance without causing irreparable damage. But as the Council ships prepared to fire, something impossible happened. The human fleet vanished. "What?" Vex snarled, staring at tactical displays that showed empty space where 1,600 human warships had been moments before. "Sir, I'm not detecting any wreckage or energy signatures," his tactical officer reported, confusion clear in his voice. "They're just gone." Before Vex could respond, new contacts appeared on sensors. Not around Earth, but scattered throughout the solar system. Human ships materialized near Jupiter, around Mars, even within the asteroid belt. "How are they moving?" "So quickly?" Vex demanded. His science officer, a crystalline void singer, chimed with harmonic distress. "Impossible, Chancellor. Their propulsion technology doesn't allow for instantaneous repositioning. Our intelligence reports show their fastest ships require hours to traverse such distances." That's when the first human ship struck, the destroyer. Vengeance appeared directly behind a Council cruiser, having somehow bypassed every sensor and defensive screen. Its weapons fired at point-blank range, tearing through shields that should have been impenetrable. The Council ship exploded in a brilliant flash. "Emergency maneuvers!" Vex shouted, but more human ships were materializing throughout his formation, not with the slow predictability of conventional faster-than-light travel, but with the sudden violence of tactical teleportation. Admiral Kane's voice cut through the chaos, broadcast on every frequency. "Council forces, this is Admiral Kane of the Human Fleet. You wanted to see our capabilities. Let me show you what 300 years of warfare taught us." The Defiance materialized directly in front of the Eternal Dominion, close enough that Vex could see the scarred hull of the human flagship. But instead of firing immediately, Kane continued his broadcast. "You rule through fear and superior numbers. You've forgotten that some species learn to fight differently when their survival depends on it. Kane's voice carried cold certainty. We've had 3 centuries to prepare for this moment. 3 centuries to develop weapons you've never seen. Around the solar system, human ships began their coordinated assault. But these weren't the weapons the Council had catalogued. Energy beams that seemed to bend space itself lanced out from human vessels penetrating shields as if they didn't exist. Projectiles that split into dozens of smaller warheads, each one finding weak points in Council armor with impossible precision. "Sir," Vex's tactical officer called out. "We're losing. Ships faster than our computers can track. Whatever they're using, it's not in our databases." A Council battleship simply ceased to exist as a human cruiser fired something that looked like a small sun. The energy release was so intense, it temporarily blinded sensors across the fleet. "Return fire," Vex commanded. "All ships maximum firepower." The Council fleet responded with overwhelming force. Beams that could melt continents lashed out at the human vessels. Missiles that could level cities streaked through space. The firepower was enough to sterilize a dozen worlds, but the human ships danced through the barrage like they knew exactly where every shot would be. More than that, they seemed to be in several places at once, their positions shifting in ways that violated every known law of physics. "Chancellor," his science officer's harmonic voice carried panic. "They're not just using unknown weapons, they're using unknown science. The way they're moving, the way their weapons function, it's as if they've rewritten the fundamental rules of warfare." Vex watched in growing horror as his fleet, the pride of the Council's military might, was systematically dismantled by an enemy that shouldn't have been able to scratch their shields. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human admiral." Kane's face appeared on the display, his expression grimly satisfied. "Chancellor Vex, you wanted to know humanity's answer to your ultimatum. This is it. We don't surrender, we don't submit, and we don't fight fair." Behind Kane, displays showed the tactical situation. In less than 10 minutes, the Council had lost 30 ships to humanity's 0. "This is impossible," Vex whispered. Kane's smile was cold as winter. "Chancellor, you're about to learn why humans are the only species that turned warfare into an art form. This is just the beginning." The massacre continued. The revelation, the Council's distress signals reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, High Chancellor Vex stared at tactical displays that showed the impossible. His invincible fleet, the same force that had conquered 1,000 worlds, was being systematically destroyed by humans who fought like they had rewritten the laws of physics. "Status report," he demanded, his voice hollow. "We've lost 60% of our ships," his tactical officer replied. "The humans, they're not just faster than us. They're predicting our movements, appearing where our defenses are weakest, striking with weapons that ignore our shields entirely." Vex watched another Council battleship vanish in a flash of impossible light. The human vessel responsible immediately disappeared, only to reappear behind a different target. It was like fighting ghosts. "Sir?" his communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving priority transmissions from across the galaxy. Other Council fleets are requesting immediate support." "Other fleets?" Vex turned sharply. "What do you mean?" The main display shifted to show a galactic map dotted with red emergency beacons. Human attacks were occurring simultaneously across dozens of star systems. The core Council worlds, military shipyards, strategic outposts, all under assault. "This is impossible," Vex breathed. "Our intelligence reports showed limited human forces. How are they attacking everywhere at once?" Admiral Kane's voice cut through the bridge's chaos, broadcast on every frequency. "Chancellor, you're wondering how we're doing this. Let me enlighten you." Kane's image appeared, standing calmly on his bridge while explosions lit up the space around him. 300 years ago, we discovered something your species never learned. War isn't just about bigger guns or stronger shields. A human destroyer phased through a Council cruiser's hull, firing from inside the ship before disappearing again. "War is about evolution," Kane continued. "Every battle teaches you something. Every defeat makes you stronger. While you maintained peace and stagnation for 10,000 years, humanity never stopped fighting, never stopped learning. The display showed human ships moving in patterns that defied comprehension. They weren't just using superior technology, they were using tactics so advanced that the Council's computers couldn't even model them. You want to know our secret? Kane's expression turned deadly serious. We didn't just prepare for this war. We've been fighting it for centuries. On Vex's tactical screen, new information began flooding in. Intelligence reports that had been dismissed, anomalies that had been ignored, patterns that had been overlooked. The truth was staggering. Sir, his intelligence officer's voice cracked, we're receiving historical data from our archives. The humans, they've been testing us for decades. Every pirate attack on our shipping lanes, every unexplained system failure, every accident at our installations, Vex's blood ran cold. You mean, they've been conducting reconnaissance operations for 50 years, learning our capabilities, mapping our defenses, studying our tactics. What we thought were random incidents were actually intelligence gathering. Missions? The Chancellor stared at the evidence mounting on his screens. Trade ships that had disappeared and reappeared with their crews having no memory of the lost time. Military installations that had suffered equipment failures at suspiciously convenient moments. Patrol fleets that had encountered spatial anomalies in sectors where humans later established colonies. They've been preparing for this specific battle since before we knew they existed, Vex whispered. Kane's broadcast continued. Every species you conquered fought you the same way, with honor, with conventional tactics, with the hope that superior technology would save them. But humans learned something different. We learned that survival doesn't care about fair play. A group of human ships suddenly appeared in perfect formation around a Council dreadnought. Their combined fire lasted exactly 3 seconds. When the light faded, the dreadnought was gone. We studied every race you defeated, Kane explained. We analyzed every battle, every victory, every method you used to break resistance. Then we designed countermeasures for all of it. The tactical display showed the horrifying truth. The human fleet wasn't just winning, they were demonstrating complete dominance. Ships that could phase through matter, weapons that bent space-time, tactics that treated the battlefield like a three-dimensional chess game played at light speed. Sir? Vex's science officer chimed in panic. I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the galaxy. The humans aren't just attacking our fleets, they're targeting our core infrastructure. Kane's image smiled coldly. Chancellor, you gave us an ultimatum. Submit or face extinction. But you made one critical error in your threat. Another wave of Council ships simply ceased to exist, their destruction so complete that not even debris remained. You assumed we were like every other species you'd encountered. You thought we'd break when faced with overwhelming odds. Kane's voice turned ice cold. But you forgot something important about humans. The Admiral leaned forward, his words carrying across every Council frequency in the galaxy. We're the species that looked at extinction and said, not today. We're the species that turned impossible odds into our specialty, and most importantly, the space around Earth suddenly filled with thousands of new contacts. Not ships, but something far more terrifying. Mobile battle stations, each one the size of a small moon. We're the species that's really, really good at holding grudges. The real war was about to begin. The New Order. The silence that followed was deafening. Across the galaxy, every species capable of receiving transmissions watched the same impossible sight. The Council fleet, the unstoppable force that had ruled for 10 millennia, floating dead in space around Earth. Not destroyed in glorious battle, but systematically dismantled like obsolete machinery. High Chancellor Vex sat alone on the bridge of his crippled flagship, the Eternal Dominion. His crew was gone, his fleet was gone, and his empire was crumbling in real time. The human Admiral Kane had granted him one final courtesy, a direct communication line to witness the end of everything he had known. Do you understand now? Kane's voice was calm, almost gentle. This was never about conquest. This was about setting a precedent. On screens throughout Council space, the evidence was undeniable. Human forces had simultaneously struck every major Council installation across 50 star systems. Military shipyards that had taken centuries to build were reduced to scrap in minutes. Core worlds found their orbital defenses simply switching off, their weapons turning inward. The other species are watching, Kane continued. For the first time in 10,000 years, they're seeing the Council bleed. Do you know what that means? Vex did know. Revolution. Rebellion. The complete collapse of the order that had kept the galaxy stable for millennia. But as he watched human ships moving through Council territory like they owned it, he realized something far more terrifying. They did own it now. Sir, his remaining communications officer whispered, we're receiving surrender requests from across the galaxy. Council governors, fleet commanders, entire planetary systems, they're all asking for terms. Kane's image smiled sadly. That's the thing about ruling through fear, Chancellor. The moment someone demonstrates that you're not invincible, everyone remembers how much they hated you. The tactical displays showed the scope of humanity's victory. It wasn't just military, it was total. Human forces had taken control of communication networks, financial systems, trade routes, and governmental databases. In less than 12 hours, they had effectively captured the infrastructure of galactic civilization. How? Vex asked, his voice broken. How did you achieve this level of coordination? This level of dominance? Kane was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his tone carried something unexpected. Regret. 300 years of preparation, Chancellor. But more than that, 300 years of being afraid. You think we wanted this? You think we enjoyed turning our entire species into a weapon? The Admiral's expression hardened. Every human child learns military tactics before they learn to read. Every civilian knows how to fight. Every ship, every station, every settlement, all of it designed for one purpose. Surviving the day when someone like you decided we were too dangerous to live. On distant worlds, the other species were beginning to understand. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had revealed themselves as something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had turned preparation for extinction into an art form. We never wanted to rule, Kane continued. We just wanted to be left alone. But you forced our hand. New reports flooded in from across Council space. The bird-like Aryan Collective had declared independence and was requesting human protection. The aquatic tide speakers were dismantling Council installations in their territory. Even the crystalline void singers were broadcasting messages of support for humanity. Sir, the communications officer called out urgently. The reptilian hegemony is requesting immediate ceasefire. They're offering full surrender. Vex closed his eyes. The hegemony had been the Council's founding member, the species that had started the Empire 10,000 years ago. If they were surrendering, it was truly over. What happens now? Vex asked, quietly. Kane's expression softened slightly. Now we do what humans have always done. We adapt. We rebuild. And we make sure this never happens again. The display changed to show human ships taking positions around Council worlds. Not as conquerors, but as protectors. Medical ships were already moving to assist damaged installations. Construction vessels were beginning repairs on critical infrastructure. You're not going to destroy us? Vex asked, surprised. Chancellor, we're not you. Kane replied firmly. We don't rule through fear or domination, but we also won't allow anyone to threaten extinction again. Not to us, not to anyone. Reports continued flooding in. Across the galaxy, species that had been subjugated for centuries were tasting freedom for the first time. The human fleet was already establishing new trade routes, new communication networks, new systems of governance based on cooperation rather than submission. The Council is finished, Kane stated simply, but the galaxy doesn't have to be. We're offering something different, a partnership instead of an empire, freedom instead of servitude. Vex looked at the tactical display one final time. Human ships were everywhere, but they weren't behaving. Like conquerors, they were behaving like protectors. What do you call this new order? Vex asked. Kane smiled, and for the first time it reached his eyes. We call it hope, Chancellor. something your council forgot how to offer. The council was over. The age of humanity had begun. The end.